And the private key is what you keep hidden. That's the part that, you know, is your own special secret sauce. So in this case, when we talk about Bob and Alice, Bob's public key is out there on the net somewhere, handed over to Alice. Alice can then encrypt a message, combine them together, and create a message that has Alice and Bob's shared secret. Similarly, if Alice wants to send her public key over, then they can encrypt it as such. And that is from the Wikipedias. So, to generate a key, the first thing you do is do gpg-gen key, follow the instructions. The defaults are pretty sane nowadays. They weren't always sane, but they are sane now. It'll do an RSA 2048-bit key for you. It will take a very long time to generate. Because this is random, it will try and use all sorts of random input in your machine in order to make the key as random as possible. Use interrupts and such. So what I did in order to generate my keys is you do like a find and then do an XORs and grep in the file for something, or do a file on it, and that'll generally speed it up. The more input you can generate on the system, the faster it'll go. I generated one in here just a few moments ago, and it took about 5 minutes for it to generate. So yep. That's not uncommon. If you do it in a virtual machine, God help you, there's very few interrupts on a virtual machine, and it will take forever. But work it as you will. You'll also want to generate a revocation circuit. Now, I know you can't necessarily see what's going on in here, but the idea is that when you generate the key, you want to be able to figure out how to revoke that key at a later date. You lose your machine, something happens along the way that the key becomes compromised, the key becomes invalid for whatever reason. You want to be able to have that revocation circuit available. They recommend print that certificate out so that you can, at a later date when the machine is no longer in front of you, you can at least type in that certificate. The certificate's not that big. It's not like, you know, where you see like the PGP blocks where it's like, you know, a whole bunch of random noise and that. But the idea is you want to be able to at least revoke it at some point in time. So, you can also send your keys to the public key servers. This is the beauty of a public key encryption system, because then you can say, okay, I want to send it over to a public key encryption server somewhere. And so then other people can say, oh, I want to grab your public key. How do I do that? So then I can send you an encrypted message, or I can verify that you have signed something, sent something to me, and such. You can send it over to these public key servers. There's a bunch of them that are out there. The GNU PG project has one. There's also one for PGP. Generally speaking, do not send test keys to these things. Because they are, you know, key rings basically, you don't want to clog them up with a whole bunch of crap that you're not going to use.
Are those a purchase service, or are those free?
Those are free. You can also publish your keys on your website if you so desire. I would say the public keys, not the private keys, of course. So, getting down to brass tacks, encrypting a file. So let's say you create a file. And this is, you just go through and type gpg-e test file. We can do that real quick here. Terminal.
Is there some way you can increase this?
I can make that bigger. I can embiggen it.
Is this a package in Ubuntu?
This is a package in Ubuntu. Well, in any Linux, I think there's at least a GNU PG available for that Linux that's out there. Where is the?
Yeah, it's been around a long time.
Can't you just put Control plus a couple
Yeah,
of
just Control Shift plus should make it bigger.
You and your simple shortcuts.
There it goes.
Look at that.
It's like a magic.
Not
Keyboard
too big.
guy.
There you go, right there.
Okay, so gpg-e test document. Who do I want to send it to? Let's say I'm using the, I'm going to use knowledge at decafbad.net, which has got a one-day key that I said earlier. So I'm going to knowledge. Current recipients, it knows how to do that. Now if I give it something that it doesn't know how to do, let's say I want to send it over to Bob at decafbad.net. If I don't have their key, I can't send it to that particular person. I have to have their public key imported on the system. I'll show you how I did it later.
Because you're using their public key to encrypt that. file.
Exactly, exactly.
And only their private key can decrypt it.
And what's even better is, let's say I want to encrypt this, and let's go, this is secret. Craig encrypt. Okay, it doesn't trust me, and so it's letting me know that it doesn't trust me. And we'll talk about trust later. So now if I try to edit this, or decrypt it, let me get a little ahead of myself here. -D. It's going to say that I don't have the secret key available. I don't have my public key on this particular machine, so I can encrypt it, I can send it over to myself, if I get to get at net, but I cannot decrypt it because I don't have the public key or the private key in order to do that. So it's very useful. So if you want to encrypt something to someone, you can do that. You don't necessarily have to have the private key, and you can't read it once you have encrypted it. So like we did that just there. You do a GPG-D to decrypt the file. And again, you have to have the private key in order to decrypt the file. I can list the public keys that are in your key ring. So this is on, that's on my home machine. For some reason, Barry Warsaw is got a whole bunch of keys on there. I haven't gotten rid of those yet.
You have a different email address, right?
Yeah. And there's some of my public keys as well that are on there.
Those are all the same key for Barry, just
Yes,
different
they're just
identities.
sub-identities.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into a whole lot about, sub-identities and all that other kind of stuff. They're literally, you can go down some major rat holes with encryption. You can export and import them. So here I'm exporting my public key, and that creates a GPG file, which then contains all the keys that are associated with this particular email address. If I want to import those, say, okay, these are the keys that I just imported. This is on a different machine, virtual machine. And I imported these particular keys into there. Now, if you don't want to send over, an attached file, a GPG file, you can also send over a public key block as clear text, if you so desire. Let's say you're running some stupid corporate can't use attachment system or something like that. You want to send over your key, and you don't want to send it over as binary file. You can send it over as clear text this way.
Paste it right in the email.
Exactly.
Fits in a file cap it better that way.
Exactly. If you wanted to type that in, be my guest.
Yeah.
No, it's
It's like the old days of BASIC, data, space.
Yeah.
001.
So what's also very cool about this, one of the uses for GPG is not necessarily for file encryption, but you can also make sure that whomever sent whatever it is that you are reading actually sent it. And you can do signatures on there. It's like the old signet rings, got the Pope slamming his little finger right into the wax and then sealing that particular message, make sure that everyone knows that it's him. This is the equivalent, except without the paper ring. So you can set up a fingerprint, you can set up some signatures. And what's neat about that, I don't know if you can see this, I've got a message here that says the eagle flies at midnight, and it's sent it to the test message. And so I can figure out the signature for that. I need a secret key for that, and then I can verify it. So I didn't edit the file. I just wanted to verify it, and it comes back and says I got a good signature from Craig Maloney, Craig@tcaf.net. Now, if I echo in a different message, the eagle flies at dawn, it comes back bad signature from Craig Maloney. So if I change that message, it doesn't match the signature. So there's a cryptographically strong signature that is associated with that particular message, which is very handy if you're trying to send over correspondence, if you're talking on, mailing lists or something like that, where you have to verify people's identity. You have to verify that, they did indeed say what they said. That's the way to do it. I'm going to talk a little briefly about webs of trust. Let me go back here, because unfortunately this is really, 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 really small. So,
Can't you do a Control Plus to get it bigger?
that's as big as I want to get.
On the other one.
On the no, I can't.
Oh.
It's a PDF file.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do, there's a secret key available. I'm going to trust my knowledge. So I'm going to say trust. And it comes back and says, what level of trust do I want to assign to knowledge at decapbad.net? I don't know where I want to say. Anywhere from, I don't know, I don't trust them, I trust them marginally, fully, ultimately, or back to the main menu. So you know what? I trust myself fully. I mean, if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? So I'll give it ultimate trust. And there we go. It says that I trust this key fully. I have given my verification that I trust this key. Now let's say Gib wants to verify this key as well. He wants to set up the web of trust. He can say whether he trusts that fully. He can say he probably doesn't trust me as far as he can throw me, and he can say that as well. And then that can eventually, and I don't know exactly how you can get it into the public key servers about who trusts who. I'm sure there's a way to upload it. I just haven't explored it. So one of the neat tricks that I use for managing my own passwords. Who here has passwords?
A few.
Who here has an awesome way of handling passwords? Who here has an awesome way of handling passwords in Vim, your favorite editor of all time? You're about to find out how. So in Vim, you can use a plugin called GNUPG.vim. And what GNUPG.vim allows you to do, it allows you to edit these GPG files. Now normally you can't really do anything with these GPG files. I can cat this file, and it's just crap. But with the plugin,
You like that?
yep,
Did you enter the pass?
I entered the password and it allows me to see that just fine. If I want to, let's say,
So it's asking you to unlock your key ring
Right.
to get your private key out of it.
correct. Let's say I want to create a new file, new message to Craig at decapbad.net. Now, I don't write this particular buffer. I just exit out of it. It'll ask me which key. I got to figure out how to get my keys sorted out. If anyone knows how to sort your keys out and get rid of old keys and still be able to edit old files, let me know. So, here's
Unencrypt everything and then re-encrypt it with a new key.
right.
Then we have backups that are encrypted. that you then
Here's some
get.
secret text.
You mean an existing file, or
An existing file, yes.
you have to basically re-encrypt it, because the header structure, all the old things, technically you could write an editor that would strip out the headers
Right.
for those, but that would affect the signature sign.
Right. That's what I figured. I just wanted to. I was hoping
I was
someone
under
would have a nice,
22440 committee.
Okay.
I know too much about it.
So now, if I try and edit this file that I sent over to Craig at decapbad, I don't have the private key, so I can't decrypt it. But it's trying to tell me that. Now, I know there are some of you out there, heretics, we like to call you, who don't use Vim.
Hey, don't look
We
away.
do have ways, though, for you to do a nice and easy encryption under Ubuntu. and that is Seahorse plugins. Seahorse plugins are very, very cool. It goes into Nautilus, you know, everyone's favorite file manager of choice, and allows you to
Good God, how old is that?
just a little.
It's his newest machine, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
1978.
It's got 16K of RAM. Give him a
That's
break.
his wife's
Hey,
machine.
and it's got the expansion module. It probably even has level 2 basic, maybe even level 3.
And probably
Yeah,
prevent
that
a
is-
digital TV from receiving a signal.
It is. It actually. I think it was a black and white TV. They just had a little cord hanging off in front of it.
I should have mounted it, but it had, that was the.
It was a TV. They sold it under another model number as a TV. It was just a black and white TV. Anyways, we're getting so far down the rat hole, it isn't even funny. So I can open with decrypt file. It's asking me for my key.
Oh, nice.
And what's even better too is I can encrypt something from here. And it'll show me all the keys that I have available to encrypt. I can select all of these. If I want to sign it, I can sign it too.
You can encrypt it with all those keys?
Yeah, what the hell?
Well,
That's the public keys, so that's like a distribution list, if you will.
So you can come up with multiple files.
Well, no, what I'm going to do is
Multiple people
I'm going to
can get it.
allow multiple people to be able to decrypt that file.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it in there? It must be in there multiple times.
No,
No?
actually it creates a session key that's like AES or one of the newer algorithms, and it does a public key encryption of that AES key. So you have a header with the encryption of
Oh.
a session key to each of the recipients, and then you have the body which is encrypted in in a symmetric cipher. That's idea is not
Okay.
a public key cipher, but that's why it was in there.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
I knew you were going to help me out with this.
Yeah. I knew that.
I actually wrote one of the implementations of OpenPGP. I was bugging PGP something out with it.
So what's nice about that is you don't necessarily have to use Vim or anything like that. You don't have to use the command line, but you still get a lot of the benefits that come with GPG, and you don't have to use the command line to do it. So some of the resources that I used. There's a book out there called PGP and GPG. It's a little dated meaning that it's about 5 years old. So not a whole heck of a lot has changed. Some of the anecdotes that are in there maybe just a tad dated. And there's also the GNU Privacy Handbook, which is the version that I saw was from 1999. So the documentation really hasn't changed that much on this. If there's a newer resources, if there is a newer resource out there, definitely let me know. But the PGP and GPG book is kind of a retelling of the documentation that's there, and it doesn't go into as much depth as I would have liked, but it's definitely a good intro to this stuff. Any questions?
How breakable are these encryptions these days?
Well, I heard someone say
48-bit key, right?
200,
Well, yeah.
256-bit encrypted key, the universal will dark before they decrypt that.
Well, you know, the thing is that
Can we have the lights up?
they put these platitudes out there about how unbreakable this stuff is and how many
Lights.
universes we're going to go
Lights.
burn through in order to do this. But the thing is, if you have organizations like the NSA who have very dedicated resources and a lot of interest in breaking encryption, I have a feeling that they probably have something out there that will take care of this stuff pretty quickly.
Well,
I'm saying pretty quickly on the order of it's not going to take a whole universe in order to do it.
that's not, then you simply, if every bit will double the amount of time. So then if you go from a 2048 to a 4096, it will be the universe.
Let's put it this way, it's cheaper
Unless
for
it's
them
short.
to go get into your house, grab a machine, get your
Unless
key,
they actually break
Right.
and crack the passphrase.
Well,
Or
correct
the
the
waterboard
passphrase
thing
or
till you give it
say,
to 'em.
Well,
Mr. Satwick, I have a warrant for your arrest. Would you please hand over your
They
keys?
can't, that's based on the US. They're not the required to.
On the same token, they can also say, Mr. Satwicks, please give me your key.
Or if you give me your key, I'll stop waterboarding.
Exactly. You know, the thing is, you know, and again, that gets into the legal rat hole that I was talking about, is that we're still coming up with how to deal with this as a society.
But, well, as a quick thing, the hashing of the passphrase, they were very careful to make sure each of the different phases were roughly equally cryptographically sound, so that you're not going to build a machine. The machine that decrypts the passphrase is about as strong as one that you'd have to use to decrypt the public key and/or the symmetric key in the actual text.
Okay, so you lost me on that one.
The passphrase, well, you know, it's like, well, why don't you just crack the passphrase for your private key? Well, that's actually a cryptographically strong
well, no, I'm not saying crack, I'm just saying brute force. It's like any password, right? Eventually, if they have your key, then all I have to do is guess your password, which is your passphrase in that sense. And they could brute force that in mass scale, then, you know, easier than they could to try to crack the encryption.
If your passphrase is snuggled, yeah.
Skip the encryption, go to the password. That's always the...
Yeah. But if you're using crap passphrases, then yeah, you're definitely lining yourself up for failure.
Well, these days with the GPU-based stuff, I mean, they were saying if your password isn't, what was it? Came out, what was that? Just
12
DEFCON, whatever. 12 characters was the new. If it's not 12 characters long, forget about it. It's a morning cup of coffee for someone to GPU crack that stuff. So
Right.
it used to be, well, it has to be 8, well, it has to be 10, and now it's like, well, with today's GPU scaled stuff, like Amazon's GPU service, I mean, unless it's 12 or more, it's like
Again, this is like putting a master lock on your shed. You know, you're trying to keep the people that are mildly curious out. The people that are very, very interested, you know, life or death interested in this stuff, will definitely figure your stuff out. But yes.
So I wouldn't worry about like how good is the encryption part, like how good is your passphrase in keeping your private key private.
I have a question for him. He had the same message encrypted 7 or 8 times to different people on the mailing list. Did having making more people on the mailing list make it easier to crack it?
No.
I know that the more information,
The more times you reuse the same key, the easier it's going to be to
The
crack.
only place where
Right.
we create a problem is
the more times you use the same text, it's easier to crack.
if one of the people on the mailing list has a very short, say a 512 byte RSA or DSA key, a weak public key, then you could crack the message because you would attack the weakest public key. But most of them have revoked or would probably give you warnings at this point. Everybody should be using at least a 2048-bit public key. But if the public keys are all the same string, that's hiding the session key equally strong. And attacking the public keys and attacking the session keys are both these huge computationally impossible unless you're maybe the NSA, but theoretically unless the NSA has some special algorithm, even they can't really, known to publish science they can't, or mathematics they can't do it.
No, but I'm going back to World War II technology. You have the same message in 6 or 7 versions.
There's only one version of
You
that.
know what? Let's do an
No,
experiment.
each person
Let's do an
got
experiment.
a different version of the message.
Let's do an experiment.
That's not how this works.
Okay, I'm going to encrypt the same message. I'm going to encrypt the same message, and I'm going to send it to the same person. And we'll show you how it goes here. So Echo, this is a test.
Can you make that bigger again?
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is the test, and it's going to test 1, test 2. Okay, and I'm going to do the same. let's see. Okay, that's interesting. I thought it might have been different. It's the same SHA-1 song. Okay.
So could you
So it's
go
exactly
through,
the same message.
so explain what you just did.
What I did is I created two files that were the exact same test. This is a test. And then I encrypted it to the same recipient. I was going to see if it might have not sent the same message across, but according to SHA-1, it is the same.
Wait,
It's gotta be.
it's gotta be
Yeah, it doesn't
Gotta be
have
the
to-
same, otherwise how would you?
No, you can put it.
You sent it to the same message to two different people?
Test
The
1
same
is
one.
GPG, not test 1 and test 2.
They're both GPG. Oh, sorry.
They will be different because the header will be different because they have a
Aha! I see. You have found my mistake. Yes, and they're completely different. That's what I expected to see.
If that's because the file name's different, well, the recipient name.
The email address it's going to is different.
If I
right?
can,
No, it's the same.
if
Same
you have
email
3
address.
minutes, I can explain what's some of the internal structure. But I need the board. The structure basically, you have a header section, and then for each recipient, we have a recipient record.
Oh, we need a marker. Hang on, let me.
I mean,
Greg,
there's
see if any of those
four of them on the counter.
I've got some.
All right, just one more. And it's black.
You got a good black one?
So in the PGP or OpenPGP record, you have the first thing you have is like a header. This is brief. All the stuff's in the RFC 2440 if you want to get really deep into it. The first record you have some kind of header saying this is a PGP message. Then you have the session key encrypted there, so you have the recipient a@a.com, followed by the public key encryption of the session key, and then you have b@b.com, public key encrypted of the session key, and you have as many of these there. So these are fairly short records. Even with all the bits, there are, I guess, on the order of 256 bytes, so that you can have quite a large number of these, even if it doesn't create copies of the message. Then you have the session key encrypted of the message. So this is what you have, and this is the way, if you encrypt the same message to just one recipient, there's just one record. If you encrypt it to two, there are two records. And the only way to get the key to decrypt this message, this is just basically noise, is you have to do a public key decryption with A.com has a secret key that can unlock this to obtain this session key that can unlock this. There's no other way of unlocking. There's actually a vote. If you check deep in the GPG, you can create a session key encrypted message without any of the public keys. I don't know if there's a reason for it, but that's one of the options on there. Yeah. And if you have a signature, it takes this entire thing and then creates something like an SHA-1 hash of that message, and then this is a signature, which is also a part of the public key of the hash of the message, or of the whole message of the headers plus message. And then you can also what's called ASCII armoring, which is what makes the printable version. So that's why you can when you encrypt it to multiple, the original message, 0xC2 0x35. This is all. When you encrypt this to this is what we used IDEA or uses AES or Cas5 or some of the whatever. They've actually added some newer algorithms. They take whatever this typically a 256-bit key, run it through the public key encryption using RSA or DSA, and then attaches it to the name and there's a few other things in the header indicating algorithms, and there's a record for every recipient. So I actually wrote something that will break these apart.
Every recipient of that message gets the same encoded message.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So my assumption was that everybody would get a different version of the text.
No.
Which would make it easier to crack.
Yeah, that would be true, but no, everybody gets the same session key encrypted, symmetrical key. AAS or CAST. This is RSA, DSA. Same thing with signatures, RSA. Or this was also, there are a couple different algorithms, I don't know the current ones there, and this is like SHA1. Nobody uses MD5, don't use MD5. You had a question?
So in this example here, I mean, what's different between the two files? Because he sent it to the same person with the same message, and just encrypted it twice.
Right.
Why
Session
is it
key is
different?
different.
The session key is determined randomly.
Oh, that's a random number, okay.
Yes, the session key is from whatever entropy, which is why you need a good source of entropy on the sheet.
But, Tom, his point here, that if you have more than one encryption of the same message, then you weaken them all, because that gives the cracker some extra information to crack the encryption. So in this case here, if you send it to 2 or 3 people, you haven't encoded the message 2 or 3 times, but you have encoded that session key 2 or 3 times.
Right.
And so the person trying to just decode that session key would have an advantage if you had sent it to more than one person.
Not necessarily, because having multiple different keys, each of them is equally hard to crack. If these are the only cases, the other one which I mentioned, if the public key here is a 2K key and this is a 4K key, this is the weak link. If you have a 1K key here, this would be the weak link, and that's one of the reasons you might want to check to make sure that you don't have old stale keys that might be too short. And realize this is not twice as hard, the 2Ks are not twice as hard to crack. They are 2 to the 1,000th power, 10 to the 300th power times, it takes that much longer to crack a 2K key over a 1K key.
Yeah.
Right? Every bit you add doubles the amount of time it requires.
So double it 2,000 times.
Yeah, or 1,000 times so you get to there, 2,000 to get there. So just make sure that you're not using an old either DSA.
Right.
Make sure you're using the current length of the keys.
So even if you only create it for one recipient, it still does that format, same headers and stuff?
Yes.
There's only one of those entries
Yes.
at the top. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
That's good to know.
I'll leave that up there. You can erase it.
Even if they're going to scare the people tomorrow.
What are these people doing in this room?
Yeah, right. Well, the funny thing is, I was doing this presentation at the coffee house, the one we go to for CHC, and you want to talk about getting nervous, when people are looking over your shoulders, like, I'm doing searches on cryptography, man. It's like, you shouldn't have this feeling of that you're doing this black art, but God, you can get a really guilty conscience just even thinking about this stuff.
Hearing the comments.
There's a black LTD sitting out in the parking lot.
Exactly, and it's like, it honestly, it shouldn't be, you don't feel guilty about putting a lock on your shed at night. You don't feel guilty about locking your gate and locking your doors and locking your windows and that. But using encryption for whatever reason gives you that feeling sometimes.
What are you hiding, Craig?
Exactly. What are you hiding?
Yeah.
I'm hiding my password. But doing a presentation on this
Don't
stuff.
believe you, show me.
Sure.
Well, if you don't show me, it must be something bad.
Well, and we also used it over at SourceForge and that for encrypting passwords and that. And then we would have a piece that would, take the passwords that were encrypted in Subversion, get whatever it was, and then copy the password files over to the recipient machine and make sure that they were nicely made, secure and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of uses in that for encryption. I don't think anyone should feel guilty about using encryption. I mean, and I say, you know, encryption is just like the same like putting a lock on your garden shed. Any other questions? Comments?
What do you have in your garden shed?
Yeah.
What are you hiding up back of that building?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Proxy servers too?
Sorry?
Okay. Proxy servers?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Vim add-on for PGP, was that part of the add-on package for Vim, or is that part of the PGP?
That was something that I installed separately. Let me go back so you can get the URL.
Oh, okay.
It's script number 661 on the site. If you just do a search on GNUPG.vim, you should be able to find it as well. That's how I found it.
Okay, thank you.
So, highly recommend it if you use Vim. It makes for a very nice, secure password store. Because what I'll do is I have a directory of passwords, you know, for all the different sites that I go to, and I just create another text file. Boom, I can throw in all the necessary information. So you don't have to do something like, you know, with LastPass or KeyPass. You know, it's like you have a username and a password field. It's like, well, what if I want to put in something additional on here? How do I do that? You know, do I put it in notes? And it's like,
They
you know,
have
I don't even
some
have
notes and they have
to. Right, but I mean, I don't have to worry about that. I just throw it in a text file, and I can throw whatever the heck I want to throw in there.
The only problem with text files is if somebody's standing behind you, they can see it. That's what KeyPass is. You can copy it straight to the clipboard.
Right.
That's about the only reason it's better.
Exactly. But that's the reason that I use it, because you know I can have a file full of, you know, social security numbers or something like that. You know, for my family, I can put that in there. I don't have to worry about where it is. Yeah.
Do you have your password synced up to Google?
No. It's in a Git repo. I mean, I can check it out if you want, but
Okay, so then if you're at a different machine, that you could retrieve the password directly to gain access.
I'd have to have my private key on this machine, which I don't. I don't have it on here. I only have it on my machine at home.
There's SSH in and you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Using your public-private key pair.
Exactly. Which you'd have to figure out my password.
Yeah.
So your password is just a weak link.
You know, the thing is, you can go as security conscious as you want.
Or however paranoid.
Yeah, however, you know, when people are out to get you, paranoia is just good thinking. Yeah, that's the maxim I live by.
He's with us, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I go to an HTTPS website.
Right.
Is the traffic to that website encrypted already?
Well, yeah, that was SSL, which we talked about last week,
Yeah.
or last time, not last week.
Yeah, but yeah, it's encrypted.
Yeah, but then you're talking about over-the-wire transmission as opposed to storing files on your system.
Right. I mean, so just because I go to https://google.com, that if it's encrypted already, and how does my computer and Google know?
Your browser's got part of the key already. That's
Yeah.
why when you buy a certificate, you want to make sure that it works with most browsers. You want to make sure that the certificate you buy is like has a, you know, you get your public-private part. There's already part of that's in your browser, and so that's why when you go to negotiate, it's like, oh, I trust the certificate that Google's giving you because I've already got part of the information for it.
You know, you talk about thought and VeriSign, you know, or sign authority, so
And yeah, no, that is like the only true way, as we discovered, to
oh, self-signing is great.
secure a web connection.
Self-signing is a beautiful thing.
Is that for real or is that facetious?
That's facetious. You know, having to tell people, okay, download this CRT
Oh,
file.
for a public thing, yeah.
Yeah. Download the CRT file. Tell your browser to accept it.
Well, it doesn't compromise security, it's just a compromise trust.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You still have the same industrial strength security of that transmission channel, as long as you believe that you're talking the right
Right,
person.
and that gets back to this thing too. You know, you have your web of trust in that. You know, such and such says this is this particular person, and then you know you get 8 of your friends or whatever to, you know, take a look and say, you know, this is my driver's license. You know, these are people that I trust, and that. Yes, I got a little mesh thing over it, so it's not going to show up in the video.
Yeah, you going in and putting that 5 in and that when you did that trust thing, it's exactly the same as telling the browser to trust that
Implicitly, yes,
Exactly
I
the
trusted
same.
him implicitly. And you can say, you know, well, I met this person on the street corner, he says that he's, you know,
Yeah.
he says that he's Jesus Christ, so he might be true, you know?
I don't know.
But yeah, and then you get into these key signing parties where, you know, people can bring all sorts of documentation. You bring your social security card, birth certificate, passport, all that other kind of stuff, and people can say, yeah, I verified, you know. It's the same with notary. You know, you go over to a notary and stuff like that and say, you know, hey, this person says that it is who he is, who he thinks he is. And, you know, you provide documentation to make sure that you do that.
What if you change machines though? How do you translate this over?
You can export your secrets over to another machine. There's an export secrets. I didn't show you how to do that in here because you generally don't want to do that.
But
if you trust your machine, I mean, you know, if you're sitting here with an SD card and you transfer it over from the other machine, that's fine. If you leave it on your machine and, you know, publish that out publicly and whatnot, you know, God help you.
I mean, your keyring's still just a file.
What's that?
Like you said, your secret keyring's still just a file on the system.
Exactly.
too. So
Yeah,
if
it's
you
gotta
want
be
to copy it
redacted
to some other
in
system, go
PG
ahead.
directory, right?
Yeah, I mean, on here, you go to,
Then GNU PG, yeah.
yeah,
There it is.
that's
There's a key right
that's my life on this machine.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Pretty cool.
Thank you.